When we're talking about the podcasting world, how much is it growing?
You have to have something that's unique. What makes you unique and your show unique?
A lot of people are wondering, is it too late?
It's not too late, but I do think...
Want a copy of YouTube Secrets audiobook for free? Right now, when you sign up for a free 30-day trial of Audible, you can also get a complimentary copy of the #1 best-selling YouTube strategy book in the world. Download your copy today at tubesecretsaudio.com.
What's up, influencers? I've got an interview here with Erica Mandy. She's from the successful podcast show called The NewsWorthy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and you guys are probably watching because you're wondering, should you start a podcast right now, and how do you do it? So the NewsWorthy podcast has 10 minutes of news from that day. She's got tens of thousands of people tuning in. She's been a broadcast journalist for over 10 years. She quit her job a couple years ago, a 6-figure job, to do this full time, and had so much success and has been named one of the top 50 women changing the world in media and entertainment. That's a pretty good resume there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit real quick, how did you make that decision to get into podcasting in the first place?
Well, it all started with seeing a gap in the market because I was a news reporter, but people were telling me they were tuning out news altogether because it felt overwhelming, depressing, time-consuming, and there was no podcast audio that you can listen to on the go that allowed people to feel informed, feel part of the national conversation without feeling overwhelmed and always inundated with doom and gloom.
Yeah.
So I saw there was an opportunity to create something different than the traditional news. And I decided to take a risk, try it out for a year, and if it didn't work out, I could find another job, and if it did work out, then I could have a real impact on people and how informed they felt.
Yeah, and what I love about interviewing you now is even 2 years ago, podcasting was already getting a lot of traction. People were jumping into it, but now, today, a lot of people are wondering, is it too late? And if it's not, why?
It's not too late, but I do think you have to differentiate yourself. You have to have something that's unique. Don't do the exact same thing as someone else. Even if it's similar, what makes you unique and your show unique? Like any platform, you don't want to do the same thing that's going to compete with somebody who's been doing that for a long time. So for me, there's a lot of news organizations out there that have daily news podcasts now, but I bring a friendlier voice to it, a more casual voice to it. I do it in less than 10 minutes. So there's all these factors that are different than the other daily news podcasts. So what about your show and the value you're providing? Can you differentiate?
Yeah, basically, you're not just differentiating from the actual content itself, but even your personality as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your voice is the main thing that's driving a podcast. So if your voice can connect with the audience, that in itself can be unique.
When we're talking about the podcasting world, give us the state of the union, right? Like, what is going on? How much is it growing? Because even Sean and I, we're thinking about creating the video influencer podcast, but, is it too late?
I don't think so. I don't think it's too late. It's growing and it's exciting. So even for the last 10 years, it's continued to grow at a steady pace. But just recently is when Spotify just bought Anchor and Gimlet, which is podcast network. So Spotify is suddenly taking this really seriously. Now even Spotify's description is not just music, it's music and podcasts. That never happened before. So even when you see big companies like that getting into it, that means opportunity.
Yeah.
We also see smart speakers becoming bigger and bigger.
That's right. By the way, I've been listening to more news because of the smart speakers.
Exactly.
The Google Hub Max or whatever it's called. I'm always asking for the news.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right. I love that you brought that up.
And even our cars are probably going to take radios out and just immediately connect with your smartphone. So if somebody's listening to audio, because you can't watch video when you're driving, right?
Better not be.
So they're going to want, what can I listen to, whether it's news or value that's going to make my drive feel productive. Your car is going to be set up with better technology to help you do that. So if you can be in position now, you're going to be ahead of the game, even for people that want to start a podcast in 5 years, because it's continued to grow. And there was even just a study by Discover Pods that found for people who are already listening to podcasts, they're spending more time listening to podcasts than they do on social media. Half the people they surveyed are spending more time with podcasts than social social media.
I totally believe it. In fact, I even get a lot of people listening to our YouTube videos because we don't have a podcast, right? So I always ask myself, like, how many more people would be exposed to our content if we had it? What are some of your tips for people just getting started with a podcast? Obviously, the number one thing we just heard, differentiate yourself. Would be a few others.
Well, and I wouldn't be afraid to experiment because the format doesn't have to be exactly the format that you've seen someone else do. You can still have fun with it and see what works for your audience and the content that you're providing. I would say try to have systems in place because it is usually more time consuming than people expect. Just like you create content for any platform, you want to give it the time and energy it deserves, and specifically make it for that platform so that it has good sound quality.
Yes.
How many times have you listened to something, it was really good content, but if the sound quality isn't there, it's harder to listen to.
I totally agree, especially with competition. Even on YouTube, the higher your quality, the more immediately they're going to be like, okay, this is good content.
And it doesn't cost a lot to get started with podcasts, which is actually even different than video because you don't need a lot of equipment. There's an ATR 2100 microphone for I think like $60.
We'll put in the links down below.
And that in itself will give you pretty good audio quality. So it doesn't take a lot to have good sound quality. So I would recommend at least having, the $60 microphone.
All right, so we've gotten some great tips. We know it's not too late. Is there anything else you'd want to leave with the audience?
Like any platform, you want to stick with it, right? You're not going to have overnight success unless you're already a celebrity. So start it, stick with it, and then take action every single month to see it grow. The more that you do to get it in front of people, to collaborate with potential partners, to promote it in whatever way you can, the better off you're going to be and the faster it's going to grow.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Erica. We're going to put all of Erica's links down below, especially to her podcast. You should definitely listen to it. I'm going to be listening to it.
If you have a podcast app, just search The Newsworthy, or you can check it out at thenewsworthy.com.